Hey, and welcome to another one of the Tech Geeks videos. Today we're going to be really answering the question, which Omada controller do I choose? There's 4 of them. I'm Paul from the techgeeks.com, and this is...
Hi, I'm Jaryn.
Jaryn is one of our TP Link tech experts, so you can always reach out on YouTube if you want to ask some questions. I'll quickly jump out of the way and let him answer those. But it is a common question that we've got asked, because maybe you've got a desktop access point like this, or these are all Omada, a TP Link Omada access point. Maybe you've bought some TP Link switches, or you're thinking of buying some, or even got a TP Link router like this one. And you're like, well, how on earth do I actually control this? I've figured out that there's a software, there's a hardware controller, and there's 2 cloud versions. So we thought maybe we put this video together to hopefully answer some of those questions. Jaryn's going to jump on the computer in a minute, and he's going to run you through the setup and the differences on getting those running across all of them. But we thought just at the beginning, we maybe just run through the 4 main variants that are there and who would maybe use them. So can we jump in first, and Jaryn, and just go, the software you can download off TP Link's website. So that's free. So that's probably the piece where people would start maybe. Who's that aimed at?
Yeah, so that one's aimed at probably your prosumer, so someone using their home network, maybe has a bit of knowledge around networking and firewall, and wants to run it locally in their home, and you do need a dedicated device for full functionality. Yeah, it's a good free option that gives you quite a bit of features.
So you don't have to run it all of the time, you just won't get all of the features.
Correct, right? Yeah, you just won't get the full functionality. I mean, the people who it's aimed at generally probably will, but yes, you can.
And I think one of the other key things to remember is if you install this on a computer, that computer, if you get rid of it or upgrade it and then suddenly realize you want to update your devices, you will need to have taken a backup to restore it, or you'll have to factory default all of the devices in your property and reset it up from the beginning, right?
Correct. Essentially, the computer or the device becomes a controller, so if you remove that, you remove the controller.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we've got that, then, and you'll run through basically that's your first main setup, isn't it? I think showing you all of the steps.
Correct.
And then we just copy that process onto the others. Then you've got a hardware controller, like the OC200, OC300.
Yeah.
Where would you see that fitting in the setup?
Yeah, so from a compliance, you're having all your data just stored on your local network. It's a good device for home users, also for businesses as well. You get the benefits of the paid cloud version in terms of the networking side, just without having to pay the licenses. So it's a good option for businesses to, per site, if you have a lot of devices, you might just use one hardware controller instead of using lots of licenses.
And it removes that need to have a permanent computer running, right?
Correct.
So for a couple of $100, you don't have to have a VM or an actual computer running, so it sort of works out quite effective. Okay, then I get a bit lost, because we then go to Essentials, is it?
Yes, so Essentials is the free cloud version, cloud controller for TP Link. So great for any home user. It gives you just like a basic set of features just to get your devices up and running. So you don't need a TP Link router. You could just be using a switch. You can put that on your home, set up your TP Link Essentials account and add that, and away you go. Okay,
and has it got some of the logging features in there?
It has some basic logging features, not a lot. If you want to go beyond that, then you'd be looking at the other controllers.
Okay, so this is really good. Home user, you've bought an access point and you're like, I don't need to install the software, I can just join this to the cloud, then I can manage it. And as long as this has got internet connection, I presume I can make changes when I'm out and about as well.
Correct, yeah, you get remote access to it, which is helpful.
And then we've got the last one, Standard, is that what it is?
Standard, yes. So that is, I guess, the premium cloud controller. What I should mention with Essentials as well is that it's not only managing your network devices, but also your camera devices, so NVRs and cameras.
Yes.
So that is the benefit of the cloud controllers. With the Standard, you apply licenses to it to get additional features for your network and camera devices.
Okay. So this is sort of the ultimate to go for at that.
Correct, yeah. So if you're a large business, lots of sites, network and cameras, you might consider using the Standard.
Awesome. So we're going to let Jaryn to jump on the computer and he's going to walk you through all of those.
Hi there, this is Jaryn from the techgeeks.com. Today we're going to set up the software controller for Omada. So first thing we're going to do is go to our web browser, and we're just going to type in the search bar Omada software controller download, and then we'll just click this one here, and it'll take you to this website here. Because we have a Windows computer, I'll download that. I have already downloaded that, so I'll just go to my downloads folder, and you'll get a zip file from your downloads folder, and it'll look something like this here. So you'll just need to make sure to extract that. You can extract all and just extract it to the downloads folder is fine. And then it'll give you something like this. We'll just open this one up. And then we have the Omada controller application. So from here, we'll just double click this one and begin to get this one set up. And we will allow this to make changes to the device. Okay, click next. Choose the file path, that's fine for us. And begin installation. So this will take just a minute, so we'll come back when that's finished. Okay, that one is finished, so we're just going to click finish for this install shield wizard. And we'll give that a moment, and then we should see an Omada controller application open. So we'll just give that a moment as well. Okay, it took a few minutes, but the Omada controller has opened this automatically, and it's starting to initialize the controller. So again, this will probably take a few minutes. So I'll just pause it and pick up when that's finished. Okay, so that one's finished, and it's opened this web URL in the browser. So it does say your connection isn't private. We're not going to worry about that because this is just self-signing locally. So that's okay. So we're just going to click advanced. And then I'm going to go continue to localhost here. Okay. Okay, so welcome to use Omada Controller. Let's get started. Just a note with the software controller, it does require to be running on a computer at all times. So that's just something to keep in mind if you need to have a dedicated device for this one. So we're just going to go and fill out this information. And then we'll just confirm that password. You can add email here as well, which I believe binds this. Oh no, sorry, this one just an email address for resetting passwords. And it doesn't look like I've matched up the. That would be why. Passwords. All right, that should be happy now. So we'll just leave the email section blank. You can bind this software to the cloud, so your TP Link ID. So you can access it there remotely, which is potentially a good setup. We'll just leave that blank for now, and we'll just accept the terms and conditions and click next. All right, so we're going to go config new setup. Obviously, you can restore from backup file if maybe you've had an issue, and we'll leave the controller name as that. We'll leave it at, actually, we'll change it to Brisbane, because that's where we're based primarily. Control update notification. System will query the cloud for controller found. Yep, let's leave that. And we won't tick the join user experience improvement program, and then click next. All right, so we're going to create a site. So within Omada, in the software controller, you'll have your controller, which is essentially your organization, and then you create sites within it. So in this one, we'll just create office for our site here. Leave it as Australia. We'll just leave it as the time there, and then select your switch series. So Agile, generally you'd be using these for small businesses. If you're a larger organization, you might be using campus aggregation and access series. Just make sure you tick these ones to make sure that the functions are available in your account. And then device account, this will be the username and password for all of your devices managed by the controller. So we're just going to put okay. Yes, okay. So I wanted to show you this as well. It doesn't allow you to, I've misspelled tech gigs anyway. It doesn't allow you to have two of the same character in a row, which is unhelpful. That's okay. So get rid of that. And I think it also, no, it's fine with that. Yeah, so if you have two characters in a row, it's a little bit problematic, but that's okay. Easy enough to get around. Application scenario, we'll just tick this one as Office. And this will give you some extra assistance. Not needed though. Fantastic. So please select a device you'd like to configure. We do have a device on the same network as this one, which is another thing to keep in mind. You do want to have your devices that you want to configure on the same network because they're going to send communications to each other, so they need to be able to see each other. We won't do anything of this just yet, so we'll click next. When setting overrides, so if you do not have an Omada gateway or Omada gateway has already been configured, please skip this step. We do not have that, so we're going to skip that. I'll just quickly show you what that looks like though. This would be if you're going to set up a gateway and you have not done that already. Just because if you have a gateway in standalone mode, that can apply settings to the devices. So you just want to make sure that your site settings and not standalone device settings are the ones being applied. But this one is fine, so we're just going to untick this one at the top. And we're just going to click next. Okay, network name or Wi-Fi name. So we'll just call this Tech Geeks. And password. Okay. And we'll just click next here. I'm not going to set up a guest Wi-Fi, but you certainly can if you need. And I'm just going to review settings here. Everything looks okay. And then we'll click finish. So we'll give that a minute. And then it's going to take us to the Omada controller. So this is the username and password that we set up earlier. So let me just enter that one in. And so you'll be able to access this via the computer that has the control on it via this one. You'll also be able to set up access it via an IP later. Just give me a moment. Evidently typed that in wrong, so okay, that should be good now. Okay, I'll just move myself down here. So we'll just skip that tutorial for now and we'll get straight into it. So this is the global view, as you can see up here, for the Omada controller. We can see our site, which is Office, which we created earlier. You can click in here and you can access the sites this way as well, which is the one just here. So let's just quickly go through some of the tabs. So site template. If you have a number of sites that should be configured the same, this can definitely be a handy way to minimize your admin overhead. Devices. This will display your devices across every site. We don't have one here yet. I will make a note, UDP and TCP ports on your firewall need to be open for devices to be detected on the network. So we will look at adopting a device shortly. We go to logs, some basic logs, event and audit logs. Audit logs more to do with admin access. Firmware for the different devices. You can upload firmware for upgrades as well. If we go to accounts, we can see we've got a local user and we can, we've got a number of roles in here. And you can take a look here and view what permissions they have. So obviously as an owner, you have permissions for all settings. And you can obviously apply these to different people that you need to assign various access to. You can, if you note on here, you can provide access for all sites, or just maybe you want someone who just wants to access or who needs access for just one site. That can be a good way just to segregate for security reasons. You can also put email and 2FA in here. 2FA, you can use an authenticator app, and definitely helpful to do as well. If we just go to settings now, got a few settings here, system settings. We'll just quickly go through these. So these are some of the settings that we've gone through earlier. You can check for updates. Can add certificates. Can access. Yes, like I was saying before, should be able to access the controller via this IP. So that's system settings, controller settings. So this would be for the software controller that we've downloaded. Again, a lot of the settings that we have here before, you can convert this into MSP mode as well. If you're managing other organizations, go in the settings again, UI interaction, history data retention, service settings, account security, platform, SML, maintenance, migration, cloud access, all fairly explanatory, so we'll just leave those for now. If we just go on the top here, I've got a tutorial if you have any issues or about, which I believe should give you some more information. It's okay though, it's not. I can edit your account settings in here. Let's take you to a new web page. Just enter my password. Okay, admin email alert. So you can set event alert emails, which can be helpful. We won't save that. Not too much to see in here though, so we'll close that up and continue on. You can just refresh the page from up here and search for devices or features as well on the top, if it's helpful. But what we'll do now is we'll we'll go into the Office site that we created earlier, and we're going to adopt a device. Now, as I mentioned before, you do need to have certain ports open on your, in this case, Windows firewall. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check the firewall settings. They should be open, and then also I may need to factory reset the device I'm trying to adopt, as I believe it's bound to another controller. So just pause it here for now, and we'll pick up in a moment. Okay, and we're back. So a little bit more to do here than expected. So as we were looking at before, it does need certain ports open on your firewall to detect devices on the local network. So for this one, given that we were using VLANs, I think the Windows firewall essentially said that we were on a between the two devices as a public network. So what I end up having to do was setting up some inbound rules. So I had to enable the TCP and UDP ports to be opened as the screen was showing before. But what I also had to do, just because it's what I'm doing is in a VM, I had to also allow Java as well. And that after adding that, then this device was able to be detected. So just a note, if you're running this in a Windows VM, that's something to keep in mind as well. So now that we have been able to detect this device from our software controller, we're just going to adopt this one. And so we'll give that a moment. And that one is adopted and now is connected. So from here we can do firmware updates. It doesn't look like there's any that needs to be done. But now that this one, you can click here, you can see some info on the MAC address, IP address, controller, connection IP, uptime, radios as well. And if we go up here, we have some more options. What was this one? Yep, so you can download updates and then upload it to the device. What one was this one? Yeah, you got some network tools here, so packet capture, network check, terminal, which is helpful. And then manage device. So if you want to do some configuration specific to this device, you can click manage, and along with the statistics tools and logs, you can configure this as well. So if we click on here, we should be able to, let's give that a moment. We should be able to change things like the channel width, as well as the power transmission, services, power saving, IP settings. We won't go through them too much in detail. You do have, compared to the view in global, you do have some, now that we have a device adopted, you do have some more things here on the side. So your management, you have a dashboard, give you a overview of the devices connected, some basic reporting, topology, clients, etc. Clients in here, we won't have any clients connected, I believe, but you can check online, offline, blocked. Map as well, because you can bind devices to locations or set a location. Heat map as well, if you're wanting to do some Wi-Fi site surveying perhaps. Insights and logs. Network configuration, so this is more of your global setting change. So you notice we've got a few different VPN options, authentication. You can create your wireless networks in here. LANs and VLANs as well, general site settings, and if you want some security, you can set some firewall rules through ACL, and as well as the firewall, and have a few more options here as well. You'll find there will be more features than, for example, the Cloud Essentials. So a benefit to running this setup. And then device config here, mainly around switching, gateways, and access points as well. Hotspot, so that takes you to a hotspot manager. Network tools as before, and IntelliRecover. So this is a beta feature which, as it says up here, monitors status of PoE devices, automatically repairing abnormal devices. So essentially, if you have a device that's maybe not receiving the full wattage it should, this should reboot the device to make sure that camera or that access point is staying online. And that is essentially all we have for the software controller. A good setup if you're wanting to just host something locally, you don't want anything in the cloud, or you're wanting to utilize some of the features from that Omada Cloud Standard, but without having to pay licenses. Is a bit more of a technical setup, but definitely one that has its place. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay, now we're going to look at the Omada hardware controller. So I've got an OC200 set up on local network. So we're going to set this one up. You just need the IP address of the device to start with. So I'm going to put that one in the address bar here. Search. And so this one has come to here. So don't be alarmed by this. This is just a self-signing certificate. So we're just going to go advanced and then continue. And then that will take us to the home page, or the web interface page of the OC200. And we'll just click Let's Get Started. As you can see, this is a similar kind of form that we had to set up on the software controller. So I'm just going to fill this out, and then we'll jump in once that's done. Okay, now that setup is finished, let's log into the hardware controller. So fairly easy setup. We'll just skip through this. If you've dealt with old TP Link Cloud or TP Link controllers before, this might be a different view for you. There is an option, I believe, to use the old UI. It might be for the cloud, actually. But yeah, so here we are, Omada Controller. This is the global view. So in here we have our sites. Currently we have Office, a hardware controller in Australia, no devices yet connected. You can see fairly similar to the software controller. Maybe a few more settings here or there. And like the cloud controller, you can link this to the cloud, and then you'll be able to see it in Omada Central, which we'll take a look at in a little bit as well. So let's go into the site. So we'll launch. Just give that a moment. Okay. So this is the site view. So we were in the global or organizational view before. And here we are now in the site view. So similar to the software controller, dashboard, statistics, insights as well. So A little bit different of a layout. It's probably a little bit cleaner in terms of being able to find all your insights in one area as opposed to the software controller. So that's kind of a helpful UI. And then pretty much all your configuration settings are in one place also, which is helpful. But what we will do in a moment is adopt a device. So we'll go to the device list here. And so this one is on the network already. So we're just doing a broadcast, and so we can simply just adopt this one. No need, like the software one, to open any ports. This one is just doing a broadcast, and this controller is able to find it on the same local network. And so that one is just provisioning now. And you can see the device config. You do most of that through here rather than on the side. And you can apply individual configuration. Obviously, this will appear once this is further along. And you have a number of settings here. IP settings, antenna gain, radios, manage devices, some statistics, meshing, clients, and that one's now connected. So fairly straightforward to get the hardware one up and running. You just need to know the IP address of the device, and then you can set this one up. Good for home users who want something local, or maybe a business and you're wanting to just have network and not have to pay for licenses. But we'll get into the Omada Central one shortly and take a look at the differences and the benefits for that one. So now we're going to take a look at the Omada Central solution. So there's Omada Central. There's Essentials and Standard. So the Essentials is the free cloud controller version. So let's open our web browser and take a look. So if you just want to type in TP Link Omada Cloud into your web browser, clicking on Omada Cloud, that will take you to this screen here. So you can just sign up for an account. But in this case, we're just going to log in. So I'll give it a moment and I will log in. Okay, so just logging in now. So we'll just give this a moment to load up. So this is in the cloud, doesn't require any physical controller or software. So this is all hosted by TP Link. So what we'll do first is we'll go to, so we're currently in an organization, but we can click Manage Organization. Essentially this gives you a level above what you would get in a hardware controller and the software controller, where the highest tier of those controllers is an organization. This one, it would be essentially your Omada Central Tenant. So you can create multiple organizations inside here like we have here. So you can also add on-premises systems that will list software and hardware locations that you have. And you can also add some licenses if you have a standard Omada Central Standard account. We'll just take a look in account settings here as well. I'll just show you around here. So this is our profile here. So you can see the data is hosted in Singapore, which is fine. Security, billing information, and licenses and orders. Not too much to see there. Let's take a look about account manager. Yes, you can invite users with TP Link ID, and you can give them privileges to certain organizations. This is beta, so it doesn't look like it's completely ready just yet, but I imagine it will be soon. So if we go back to cloud-based systems, we've created this Essentials organization here. So, and you can see it by the type here. And we're going to just open this one up. Okay, so similar interface to the other controllers so far. You have your dashboard, logs, settings, etc. You do get a few more settings in here, so you can share access. You can set settings, which is fine. Account security. Yeah. So you can add organization IP access rules. So it can only be accessed from certain locations. So you just want to add extra security as well as 2FA as well. Applications. So these are the two applications that you get with the Omada Central. So you'll note you won't get Omada Guard in either the hardware or the software controller. This is a new application, cloud application that TP Link for managing the Vigi range of cameras that they have, as well as the NVRs. So if we go here, and we'll just go to the dashboard. And so this is our test site. So you can either launch the network or Omada Guard direct from here, or you can we have to go through here. So we will. Okay, yeah, so we have to go through here. So if we just click this one here, this will take us to networks. So you can see up here we've got Central, Omada Network, and Omada Guard. So we're in our tests site for Essentials. We can see there's some devices with some new firmware. That's good to know. Yeah, again, similar setup here to I would say the software controller. Map here, clients, devices. Yeah, fairly similar. Yeah, very similar to the software controller. You can see there's two access points here that were connected but have been since disconnected. What we're going to do is we're going to add a device. So the way to do this, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it via the Omada app, but today we're just going to use the device key. So if you give me a moment, I'm just going to grab the device key and then we're just going to enter that in. Okay, I've got the device key here. You can set inform on the device as well. So I could log into the web interface of the access point and then set the inform to the site that I have currently set up, so that it would auto find, which is this option up here. We're just going to just type in the device key. You can also do it by serial number. So we're just going to call the Smart Office AP, and we're just going to click apply. Obviously, you can add a few at a time, which is great, or you can import, which is also good. You have a long list. Okay, so import failed. Let me just check if I have this correct. No, I did not. So I'm just going to add this one again. So yes, okay, that looks correct. And I'm going to hit apply. Right, so this one is online. So I'd previously connected this so it could see the internet. So it doesn't need to be connected to Omada Gateway. You could have this as a standalone device in your home without an Omada router, for example, because the cloud will be handling the OS operating system control. So you can see this one is now showing up in our site here. It's just configuring based off the settings of the site as well. Something to keep in mind is that sometimes this will say pre-configured. Generally that means that it's already been configured by another controller before. You can force provision these ones if you go into manage and config. And where is it? It may only show up if it is required, so if it is showing as pre-configured, but you can force provision, which is helpful. Just taking another quick look around. Yeah, again, fairly similar, though with the added benefit of being able to set this up without the need for hardware controller or a software controller. Makes having multiple sites a lot easier, and obviously you're getting free cloud application for this. So so we'll definitely have a look at the Omada Central Standards next. But lastly, we're going to look at the Omada Central Standard Cloud Controller. So this is one that you would apply licenses to get additional features. So to get licenses, you just go into your tenant and go to the licenses section up here. So in terms of purchasing licenses, generally you would purchase through a reseller. So we go here, you can get some trial licenses for the network and camera as well. We've already used some of those. So those are good to use if you just wanted to just trial and see if it's right for you. By default, licenses are unassigned. So you can assign these to organizations up the top here. So if you go here, select the organization, it only shows organizations that are standard, not essential. So you click that. You can assign licenses. So these are like ones you paid for, trial licenses, self-explanatory. So we've already assigned some licenses to the site. So we'll just go back to this page here. And this is our standard organization here. So we'll go in here, take a look, and show some of the differences that you get between the standard and the essentials. So this is the global or the global central plane view. So you can see your site list here. We've only got one site at the moment. The main difference between this and essentials is just your licenses page here, showing you the licenses that have been assigned to this organization. You do have two options here: auto active and auto rollover. So this could be good if you have a number of licenses and you just want to make sure that devices don't go offline or lose functionality that you're depending on. So you might want to auto activate auto rollover. So a new license will be assigned to devices, and just for ease of use, you might auto activate licenses once you've adopted devices instead of having to manually activate it. So we'll go back to dashboard now. Looks like there's a couple of additional settings in here as well, which is helpful. But now let's go into Omada Network for this cloud controller. So the site we have here is just called default, but we'll just start in the global view just to see if there's any differences here. So the main difference here, site template. So yeah, helpful if you have a lot of sites and you don't want to manually configure each of the sites. You can create some site templates in here. I believe within the site template, you can also do device templates. So if you're the same model switch, for example, across all your sites, you can set a device template within the site template so that you're not having to configure that particular device over and over again. If we go back to dashboard now, let's go into, I think the global view for Omada Guard was the same or similar to the essentials. No, okay. So within here, this is probably the main difference between essential standard. You get AI search, people counting, device map and tool. So the AI search is mainly around humans and vehicles, it looks like. Yeah, you can choose if there's particular genders, hair, tops, bottoms, and colors. I imagine in due course, with the appropriate cameras and firmware updates, that this will probably be expanded in the future. Vehicle types. Yeah, okay. People counting. So yeah, helpful if you have a shopping center and you want to just count people in and out, or maybe a shop. Just get an idea of your traffic. Device map. So yeah, just a floor plan to visualize. I believe it's also not just aerial view, but also kind of the, not quite 3D, but you get the, not just the left to right of aerial, but the up and down as well. It gives you an idea of the coverage you'll get inside your space. Design tool for projects. So this one, just having a look at this one before, it looks like it's, if you're wanting to essentially create a system, get an idea of pricing across cameras, NVRs, etc. Looks like it's probably mainly so if you're maybe you're working on projects as part of an IT team, an installer, managed service provider, but others could use this as well. So that's interesting, helpful tool. So let's go back to Omada Network now. Go within the site now. So we'll launch this site and take a look in here. So you've got a dashboard with a few more widgets here, just giving you a little bit more in-depth information about what's happening in your network. We've got a 24-hour site health trend, got your device, clients, Wi-Fi, and WAN. So that's helpful. Gives you a little mapping there as well, which is great. Got a few more tabs at the top too. So just a richer dashboard, it looks like. In devices here, I believe we already added a switch. Yes, we have. So for this one, it's currently unactivated. So because we don't have the auto active option in the organization, this one has to be manually activated. Just testing before, if you have assigned this to a different controller, maybe even a different organization, it will show in the status option as pre-configured. And you will need to generally force provision or forget from the previous site generally, or factory reset manually. And then this will be allowed to be bound to a different controller. For this one as well, it was stuck on pre-configured, even though it had an unactivated license assigned to it. I just had to give it the device a reboot, and then this option here to activate the license appeared. So you may just need to reboot the device potentially. So we'll just click activate here. And so yes, we want to bind this license to this device in this organization. Yeah, we'll just use the used license. And we will apply this one. So it's pending. Don't need to click adopt, we'll just wait for that one. Provisioning. So fairly straightforward process. That license is now showing activated instead of unactivated, and that one's now connected. So if we look in here now, let's see if we get any additional information. Yeah, network check, cable test. We go into manage. So we've got a few more options in here. Network view. So this looks like the routing table as well. You can manage the static routing, which is helpful. Just showing the ports, gives you a bit more in-depth information. Helpful also for the transfer and receiving rates or sums rather. Yeah, information on the trunk versus access, PoE, profile, also some statistics as well. So that'd be helpful, just giving you a bit more in-depth reporting on the device. Cable testing, config. There's a few more options in here as well, around network security and routing. Advanced as well. Device CLI, I don't believe that was in the essentials. If we go to license here, you can see the status, license key, reassignment times remaining, and you can unbind the license and then forget the device if you need. So we'll just close that one. Okay, let's take a further look around. We go into clients. Yes, looks like there's yeah, it looks, I think, similar to what was in essentials. Maybe a few more actions. Can just easily block devices in here, which is great. Nice and easy process. Insights is new. Application analytics. So this looks like this is applications that clients will be using. So so for a client, i.e. your phone on the network or someone's phone using Facebook or YouTube. If you have a deep packet inspection support gateway, then you would be able to get some more information on users and the applications that they're running. And the reports, I imagine here, yep. Yeah, showing different clients in here. Yeah, and just giving you some in-depth reporting on the health of the network. Errors and warnings. Yeah, no, that's helpful. You can see there's more options for network configuration. More options for VPNs, for security. You've got IDS and IPS and firewall, which is very helpful. So that is, yes, your additional security for devices. You might want to consider using the standard license for your gateway and devices. And some additional options around device configuration, hotspot, network tools. You've got a couple additional tools here as well. Packet capture and interference detection, that being interference for access points. So you're troubleshooting Wi-Fi issues, that could be helpful as well. If we go into Omada Guard, yeah, looks Looks fairly similar. I think we've covered off the differences from Omada Guard already. So the main one just being some advanced AI search, people counting. It'd be good in due course to see some more detections around face and license plate and things like that. I'm sure we've seen some decent improvement over the cloud controller, even over the last few months. So yeah, hopefully we will get some more on that as well. You may even be able to do some custom alerting to find something that's a bit more relevant for you. Yeah, so yeah, the event alerting, there's quite a number of things in here, which is quite helpful, but in due course, hopefully we'll see that expanded. But essentially that is it for the Omada Central Standard Cloud Controller. So yeah, some good features there, fairly easy to use. So yeah, worth considering if this is beneficial for your particular scenario.
Hopefully you'll find this useful. Do subscribe and stay up to date.